Do you remember the moment that sprungboard Racer X into Mr. Big, or your career from one to the next?
Well, Racer X had, back then the big thing was to get a major record deal. And we were, we were doing well on our indie label, but there was a real limit to what, our career, where it could go on an indie record label. So that was the whole thing. Like, can we get signed? That was the goal back then, and we couldn't. Every label came to see us. It wasn't that they didn't know who we were. We were selling out the biggest clubs in LA. All the people from every record label would come down and watch us, and they'd all say, we don't think so, no. And it was really disheartening. At the same time, we really believed in the band and believed in the music, but after a while, we're like, man, we're just stuck. We can't seem to get this moving anywhere. And right around that time was when Billy Sheehan called me up, and I had already been a huge fan of Billy's from seeing him in the band Talus. They used to play in Pittsburgh a lot, near where I grew up. And so he was, at that time, if I had to list my top, 5 guitar heroes, Billy, even though he's a bass player, he would have been in that list. He was hugely influential to me as a musician, just watching how he played. So for him to, for my phone to ring and Billy to be on the other end was like, oh my God, it's Billy Jean. And we had met briefly a few times. First of all, for me just showing up at the concerts and hanging out, being a fan. Second of all, opening up for, I got a gig opening up for Talus and my cover band back in Pennsylvania. And then when he moved to LA to play with David Lee Roth, at that same time, Racer X started, and those guys used to come see us. We'd get all excited. We'd be about to do a Racer X show and be like, hey, the Roth guys are here. Billy and Steve and Dave, they're all out there. So, Billy was definitely aware of me, and I was aware of him. And he also used to come to do clinics at BIT, and so he'd be walking down the hall to go to the clinic, and he'd see me in a room, and he'd stop in, and we'd jam some Accept songs. So,
what's your favorite Racer X riff?
Oh man, well I'll come up with that. The first one that comes to mind was "Gone Too Far."
Can you play it for us?
Which is that 1, 2, 3, 4. And actually, the end of that was totally influenced by Talus, Billy's band, because the end of these, it's all these triplets where the drummer's just hitting crashes with the kick drum, and that's the kind of thing that Talus would do. They'd be going like doom ba da boom doom ba da boom doom ba da ba doom 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 ba da ba doom ba da ba 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 ba, and that that sort of thing was so powerful. So I came up with my own chords, but that was essentially me trying to do Talus.
That was awesome. That is so awesome. Appreciate it. Want to keep your fingers warm. So you got with Billy, and I guess, and was Mike Varney involved in the Mr. Big transition or formation?
In one way, because we, Billy and I started jamming together, or at least talking about it. And I'm actually not sure of the timeline, because I thought I was the first one. But then, in later interviews, we'd be doing an interview in Japan or something, and then Billy would tell the story of the founding of the band. He's like, "Oh, I talked to Eric first." I was like, "Really?" I thought, so I don't know who talked to who, but I know that Billy wanted to find a singer, and he contacted Mike Varney, and Mike said, "Oh, there's this guy Eric Martin. He lives in they knew each other because they both lived in the Bay Area, and Billy listened to some of Eric's singing, and I had a couple of Eric's records already. I thought he was great, so that seemed to make sense, and it did.
Absolutely. And I've read before on To Be With You, it was a little bit of a departure from, obviously you and Billy Sheehan and the kind of band that you came from, for sure. Can you tell us a little bit about, the kind of the thrill ride that was To Be With You? Because not too many people on this planet get to have a #1 smash hit like that and get that ride.
You can make my life worthwhile. I can make you start to smile. just the both of you. So come on, baby, come on over. Let me be the one to show you. I'm the one who wants to be with you. I'm the one. Deep inside, I hope you'll feel it too. Waiting on the line of green and blue. Yeah, just to be the next to be with you.
Yeah, that was well. I would say with like with my guitar playing, I had been teaching at GIT, but had been in Racer X, and had been like culminating to this sort of shred mountaintop. And then I got to the top and looked around and went like, I kind of missed the Beatles.
You had a moment at a Todd Rundgren concert, I believe, that you had told me about that kind of changed you a bit because
Oh
you.
man, yeah. When I saw him live, I was like sobbing and just going like, what? Why is this happening? I've never been this emotionally affected at a show, and it wasn't. The guitar player was great, but it wasn't the guitar playing that was doing it. It was the song and the singing and the dynamics and all this other stuff. And I thought, I got to pay attention to that because it's powerful.
Yeah.
So the song "To Be With You," I didn't write it, but one day I was driving around with Eric, and he said he knew that I liked the Beatles and that kind of stuff. So he said, "Oh, I got this song. It's kind of Beatley." He said, "Check this out." And he put in the cassette, and I heard it, and I thought, "Oh, I love that song. That's great." And some time went by, and I couldn't get the song out of my head. And so finally, I wrote. Or I called Eric. That was the days of the phone, and I said, "Man, Eric, that song you played me, the kind of Beatley one. Can you send me a cassette of that? And so he sent it down, and it was my job to make like the rehearsal tapes. We'd rehearse, and I always set up all the mics and made tapes of our rehearsals. Then I would add the dual cassette dubbing deck, and I'd make a cassette for everybody so everybody could remember the songs. Right. And at the end, I put "To Be With You," and I didn't tell anybody. And of course, Eric knew the song already, but Billy and Pat hadn't heard it. And I just put it on there and didn't say a word. And a couple hours later, after I gave everybody the cassette, my phone starts ringing, and Billy's like, "What's that song at the end? It's amazing." And said, Pat called me up. "What's that song? It's unbelievable." And so, even though I think the world saw us as metal shredders or whatever, we all had that part of us that loved a good song. And I think that the thing that was a really nice surprise is that when Billy formed the band, I think primarily he was looking for let's get a great singer and guys that can play really well. But it turned out all of us could sing harmonies pretty well. And I remember when we did my tune, Green Tinted 60s Mind, and had a lot of harmonies, and we played it for our manager. And our manager was this guy named Herbie Herbert, and he was the manager of Journey. And Journey has these amazing vocal harmonies in all their songs. And so Herbie listens to Green Tinted, and he goes, "What are you guys going to do live?"
This next song we're going to do is written by Paul Gilbert, or Pablo Gilberto. All right? And it's got to be one of our favorite songs on our record. Playing for a long time now. It feels really good. It feels like it's the first time every time. It's got to do with the color. Green Tinted 60s Mind!
Just woke up, she
And we're like, we'll sing it. He's like, you guys can sing that? He's like, that's us, you know.
Yeah.
He had no idea we could sing, and in a way we didn't either. But we just sort of, you sing? Oh, you do too. And really that became, as the band evolved, that kind of became the most enjoyable part of Mr. Big. Was like, you know, everybody wants to hear us you know, do the whittly whittly, but I always enjoyed our you know, because when four people sing together, that it really connects you. It really feels great. And really, you know, growing up as a Beatle fan, that's kind of what my original hope was. But I could never sing or write well enough, you know, early on, and I was always just a better guitar player.
First of all, when you finished it, when you got done, did you and the people around go, "We've got it. This is you know, going to catapult us and do something different"? Did you just like right away? Did you know?
With Lean Into It, the record To Be With You was on?
To Be With You, yeah.
Well, the whole record, it wasn't necessarily to Be With You. I just thought the whole record really had some strong stuff. I thought it was, you know, a huge leap forward from the one before it. And I was pretty excited. Yeah. You know, I remember like just, you know, driving to the recording studio. It was the California dream. I had like a vintage '62 T-Bird, windows down, driving to the pro recording studio, recording Green Tinted and To Be With You, and just going like, this is awesome. And I remember actually after it was finished, the first person I played it for was John Alderetti, the bass player of Racer X, because we were still good friends.
Right.
And we just, you know, those were the days where you like sit in your car. You know, and he was in the passenger seat, I was in the driver's seat, and we just, you know, had a listening party, listened to the whole thing from beginning to end. And at the end, he just looked at me and went like, "Man, that's going to be a smash," you know. And he was right. It was you know, our biggest record.